This one is such a heat check for both of these two teams where similar storylines, maybe more drastic on one side than the other, that it's been inconsistent, but we have seen improvement, right? It's been what it's been for both of these teams. And in their last couple of matchups, some standout performances despite losses. A 3-game loss to the Dragons for the Warriors, a 3-game loss to the Bolts for the Scarabs, and 2 sets where you're thinking both of these teams very well could have won a set against a top 2, 3, 4 team. And so now going up against one another, I think we're really going to get a good metric on, and there's been of course talk about the top 6 divide from the bottom 2 teams, things like that. This is going to be a really good indicator, I think, of where that divide is.
And I honestly think, and when it comes to these two teams specifically, that their spots in the standings right now are honestly exactly what standings are, which is it's indicative of like what their history has been this phase, but is not an indication of what they are right now, right? Like the Scarabs, I mentioned it, it's 9 sets in a row that they've lost. They haven't won since week 1 of phase 2, but at the same time, some of those weeks, it's like, well, they had a sub. Like, their coach was playing for them. Like, that's not necessarily going to work out too well. They've definitely had their problems. Same thing for the Warriors. They've definitely had their problems. But the teams that we've seen the last 2 weeks out of these two, one doesn't deserve to be 1-10. One doesn't deserve to be, 5-7 or whatever that is the Warriors are in the standings. And so I think this not only, like you said, is a heat check, but a really good chance for them to showcase that separation just between 5th and 6th, 4th and 6th in that area isn't as massive as it has been so far this year.
And I think it does say something about the Solar Scarabs that, there's always this air of unpredictability. If they go against the Dragons, we're like, all right, we kind of got to vote for the Dragons. But in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know. The Scarabs, they could do it.
They knocked the Kings out of the playoff contention last time around.
Absolutely. And, we get so excited talking about this stuff that we've now fallen behind 6 whole bands here in P's and B's for game number 1. The Fenrir, Erlang Shen, and Tiamat taken away by the Oni Warriors, and the Yemoja, Odin, and Serket taken away by the Solar Scarabs. And that's going to leave the top priority hunter in the game open, the Artemis, picked first.
And this going over to Vote, it's one that honestly he maybe needs look. Vote spent a lot of time this year having to defend his own purple buff or watch it disappear. I mean, there was one game where I feel like on cooldown he was getting invaded, and a lot of pressure happens on this dual lane for the Warriors. I think this is a good start to get Vote comfortable, have a lot of security, especially because you're going up against Stuart in the 1v1, which I think is a good start immediately for Vote. He's got the tenure, right? So he technically has that. But you also have to factor in Inbound, who is really, really good at getting aggressive early on. And now that the Scarabs removed Yemoja from play, every other god that he's able to bring into the table, I think is magnificent. It is going to be deadly to the Artemis.
Yeah, we usually see, if I'm continuing along with the support conversation there, oftentimes it's Yemoja plus Ymir banned out in the first couple. That doesn't matter to Nilma here. Nilma wants himself a Khepri Gore. We've seen a bit of a rise in Khepri. That's how I like to word it when we start to see these things. A slight uptick, I think, in the pick rate.
Would you say a sunrise in Khepri?
No, because when the sun rises, it's fully, it really rises full up into the sky. I guess the beginnings of the sunrise. I'm taking away your joke from you, and I'm sorry. I'm stepping on your laughs, and that's my fault. The very beginnings of the sunrise, it's 6:47 a.m. and just the tip is the top of the sun is
because he's
out.
Pushing it.
Right, and Khepri's pushing himself back into the meta here. Not surprised though, Gore. After I finish destroying your
what
jokes,
what was that other than just a huge anti-joke segment? I don't know what just happened. Did I black out?
Yeah, I'm best at anti-jokes. Hera, though, picked here for Dardes, and that's not really all that surprising because Dardes has looked good on this pick.
Yeah, this is actually a really, really solid top 3. I think for both teams, you get the Cerberus, who I'm going to assume is actually solo, not necessarily support, on the one side. Really good at holding his own. If you're looking at what Nika brings to the table, I think this is going to be a very good counterbalance, which is something that theoretically shouldn't necessarily get soloed, brings a lot to the forefront of a team fight and in capability, specifically now against an Artemis, honestly, a Khepri and a Hera. They're all pretty easy to jump in on and actually grab up. You're going to be forcing a lot of beads when Cerberus joins the fight. You get an Osiris, also probably for Scream in the jungle, which that's just going to be awesome to watch. Scream has been really, really good on a lot of these carry picks. He has kind of been leading this team. He joined much later than most of them, and he has a way higher KDA. He's got like an 82% kill participation. He is a driving force, and I think this Osiris hands him that. And Baranik's Giannis was, at one point, and for a lot of games, forced to be banned away just because of how potent he was on that.
Snipe Squad, Giannis and Rom paired together here. Baranik, despite losses, Baranik has been vocal for a good reason on Twitter, feeling confident in the way himself and the rest of his team have played. And Giannis has kind of been at the forefront of that conversation. Pairing it with the Rom, though, that makes for such a unique, I think, team fight potential here where, of course, through space and time, we all know what that does. Of course, the snipes from Rom, we all know what that does, the Astral Barrage. But both of those together, huge potential for distanced setup that you can then use to close the gap.
I harken back to like the first game yesterday, right? Dardes is very, very safe in the back line. Nothing's hitting him. A Giannis ult and a Rom snipe connect onto a mid laner,
yeah, good point.
And they're gone
they're
here.
Dead.
So like,
they're dead.
Maybe like some bad deja vu for the Warriors if they get ahead this game. They find themselves on the left-hand Phoenix, and then all of a sudden you see it through space and time hit the mid laner. That's where a lot of the changes can be, and so there's going to be some consistency questions for the Scarabs, but I actually really like this draft for taking on the Warriors here.
Yeah, the Warriors have put together something great for themselves as well. The top three we've talked a little bit about, but then a Nike and a Sun Wukong to finalize things here. Gore, I think Sun Wukong, it was nine picks so far. I feel like a lot of those were earlier on in the phase, unless I'm totally blanking on things. 11% win rate, unfortunately.
If not only players playing the Hera, Cuba Fred has had a good deal of success on the Nike as well, and then the Solar Scarabs kind of running it down with a very Scarab draft. I think this Bacchus, though, is something that I've said in the past that I think will fit Inbound's play style incredibly well. Has the ability to get aggressive in the early game, use that flop, use that belch as an initiation factor, but incredibly strong late game scaling. He's one of the tankiest Guardians at level 20, thanks to that chug ability, giving him additional
protection.
That
we really got to pay attention to. Inbound starting to diversify his god pool compared to the more standard meta that we've seen. We've seen Stewart get a lot more comfortable with these hunters, and Scream has really been a pillar for initiation for this team and has been a really big shot caller for them. Speaking of, he goes for the blink straight against Vote, looking for the stun. He's going to get the beads early from Vote and ult from Baranik just for good measure, but Inbound gets caught, has to use his own purification beads, and a quick escape route out.
Target selection was interesting there from the Solar Scarab. Scream says, I want Vote. Inbound says, I want Neilmon.
Their last set was banned away just because of the performance he had in the first two games. We'll see maybe if his performance warrants another ban come game two, either win or loss for it. This has been one of the gods that Baranik has really started to shine with as of recently. The Tiamats haven't been working out for him. Some of the other more meta-style picks haven't really been performing up to standard for it, but this Giannis has been an entirely different beast for Baranik.
Yeah, generally in the early game, he's able to get slightly aggressive. He farms incredibly well, so able to strip away that blue buff. SOT not able to pick it up this time around, but the chase is there. Neilmon hovering.
SOT gets stunned. Scream goes in, has the tether on two, looking for more through space and time. Just passes by, not able to get quite a bit. Neil now caught in the middle of SOT and Baranik, but they're not interested in the fight further beyond. They're just going to go for the retreat.
Solar Scarab setting the pace yet again inside of that early game. Nice little invade attempt is successful for them, and they're able to make their way out of there very safely. But that was a high commitment engagement for the Solar Scarabs, who used 3 of their ultimates, one of which being that global tool, and without it, Baranik's in trouble.
Dardes drops the Argus immediately on Baranik, but luckily for him, doesn't get hit by the Polymorph. Argus will chase under the tower just a little while longer, but eventually has to go for a retreat because Dardes is under fire by Inbound, and now Neilmon in danger with Scream. But luckily for Neil, he makes it back to the tower. Scream has to use the Lord of the Afterlife to get away. Dardes doesn't have the damage to confirm the kill, so Inbound will just make sure to continue zoning them away so they can escape.
So Solar Scarabs strip away blue buff. Oni Warriors head over to the enemy red buff and are able to pick that one up as well as strip the
Vortex. But seeing out of the Hera, I like it because of the Polymorph. It's one of the most obnoxious abilities to deal with. It feels like you could always juke it out, but the second that you try and do it, oh no, it already hit me. It's deceptively quick, I think is the best way I'm trying to put it, is it feels like you could walk away from it so quickly. Vote may not be able to walk away for too much longer, needs one more sniper. Inbound could get the last basic, but he doesn't need it. Stewart will manage to get all 3 snipes and take down Vote.
That's unfortunate for Vote, who's just trying to pick up his purple buff there inbound, able to utilize that aggressive early game from Bacchus to keep the pressure up. And Artemis being immobile means that she just has to juke and not able to do it this time.
Another Argus drop this time against SOT. He's got to leap away. Dardes is low, has the Scarab's Blessing just for some extra safety, and SOT got caught by Nika. Now it's Scream who's in danger, gets plucked back by Neil Baronic. With the rotation, Argus chasing down Scream, leap out of the cloud for Nika, but it's not enough damage to take down Scream. He's got to go for a full run, inbound body blocking for as much as he can. And luckily he's got the beads and the belly flop. He'll get over the wall and back to safety.
Really good peel from inbound there, just dedicating his body to separate Scream from the engagement. But now, the Oni Warriors, what were they going to do with that red buff timer? Well, it looks like they're going to go ahead and run right back into it.
Inbound's trying to stop this. Cuvo Fred is here, but looks like he was unsuccessful in stealing that red. Nice rotation from Stewart means they can guarantee the buff and guarantee their safety as well. A lot of, as you said earlier, there's been a lot of fighting, but it's mostly been a little throwing ability here, smack a guy with a belch or with a basic attack here and there, but there hasn't been a decisive fight just yet. Maybe we'll see that change around this Gold Fury started up by the Scarabs. Neil is here. Gold Fury well under a quarter health. Neil trying to steal it away. Will not be successful in doing so, but gets a nice triple root. So that's up the setup for Dardes. But force the ult out of Scream, and immediately a hasty retreat by the Scarabs. They get the objective, their main prize, and they're able to get out with their lives.
The Scarabs are just playing so much more confident on the map right now. They're the ones starting the Pyro. They're the ones starting the Gold Fury. They're doing it in situations where they just have a little bit of time, and now the Warriors going deep.
Nika makes a rotation, gets both relics out of Baronic. He's forced to go all the way back to the depths of his jungle, Scream and inbound in route, but the Tier 1 tower is the response for the Oni Warriors to get both the mid's relics and his tower despite losing the Fury.
Maybe the red buff as well. Baronic sticking around a little bit too long. The Oni Warriors not happy, losing out on both neutral objectives with zero contention instead. Gonna go ahead and keep up what they've been doing this entire game, invading red, invading purple, and maybe even looking towards this left-hand tower considering how heavily they're grouped.
Inbound, not going to get hit by the damage from Dardes. Instead, he'll go for the stun in response. But again, purple buff stripped away. Inbound flops in on top of Neil. Neil in a little bit of danger, has to use the Scarab's Blessing for just himself. Inbound will pop it with his own ultimate with the Intoxicate. And SOT gets hit by the Polymorph. In the sky is Stewart looking for snipes, but nobody is low enough for him to take. Instead, it'll be Inbound who falls down off the rotation from Nika.
Man, if Vote was a little bit further forward with that Caledonian boar, would have hit Bobby and would have bounced the rest of the Scarabs. Could have been an opportunity for the Oni Warriors to barrel through that team fight, but instead, Tusky a little out of range. Went over to the wave, and the Solar Scarabs, who were trying to surge themselves forward off an invade attempt from the Oni Warriors, find themselves crushed and lose out on too much of his HP. Can't stick around as he has gone for a relatively squishy build. Wingblade, the only bit of defense for him to help out against Dardes, means that really Polymorph plus that first ability is too much.
Vote gets clipped by the ult, looking for more damage as Stewart gets the Aegis immediately. Third snipe won't hit. SOT is low, but looking for the chase, rooted by Neil from a range. Argus dropped as well. Scream diving into the back line of the Oni Warriors, but he's going to get plucked back by Neil. Inbound blinks over the wall, looking for a stun on anybody. Finds Dardes, the only one with that belch. And now Scream trying to run away as Nika has made his rotation towards this side.
And Nika's appearance spells the end of the fight. Stinky boy, no one wants to fight him. Solar Scarabs immediately leave out of that, and well, the Oni Warriors a little slow on the rotation, but don't lose out anything for it. Solar Scarabs, however, do lose out on a ton of their relics. 2, 3 blinks down, beads lost on Scream as well, so that's a lot of their initiation gone in the near future. And the Oni Warriors, this is their winning path. They like when the game goes this long, and immediately they want to go for fire.
Fire Giant started. SOT leaps into the wave, not even recognizing that this would be an option for the Warriors. Fire Giant started up down to half health. Now SOT may be recognizing as he sees the ring of fire appear around the FG, who used the breath just against Neil. Fire Giant getting low. They're still committed to it. They haven't dropped it just yet through space and time. Does some damage, and the Solar Scarabs steal it away. They took just a little too long going for it. Cuvo will jump in the back against SOT. Nika low on the cloud, and Scream maybe looking to take him down.
Meanwhile, on the back line, Nika does fall, and inbound is engaging. This fight is separated.
The root is good, but not good enough as SOT's able to leap right past it. Neil does juke the sickle, but he won't be able to juke anything further beyond there. Stewart gets the last hit for it, taking down Neil Ma. Fire Giant stolen, 2 killed, and the Solar Scarabs have turned this back.
J-Mac, did you notice where Dardes was for that entire Fire Giant push? He was in dual lane. He was clearing waves. Let that be a lesson to the Oni Warriors when there is global presence on the other side, i.e. Baronic, with a ability to teleport his entire team to the Fire Giant. You probably want your secure there. Solar Scarabs strip it away and take the fight after.
Looking for even more. They get the tier 2 tower off the back of the fight. Cuvo takes a huge chunk of damage as well as Scream, as Argus and the damage from Dardis just a little too much. Caledonia Boar starts ripping through. Vote picks up one, and the stun connects to everybody else. Phoenix is slow. Phoenix falls. But almost everybody else on the Scarabs has to run now because they're well under the half health mark.
That should spell the end of this engagement. Baronic still has the ultimate to peel out if he so chooses, but Cuvo's in.
He goes in with the ultimate, but immediately he loses that entire shield, and Baronic's the one to put him down. Vote gets some big damage against Baronic, but luckily he's got portals to get right back to safety. Neil has respawned full health, still looking for a chase, but there aren't many targets that he can find.
Man, the Solar Scarabs got this guerrilla warfare tactic. All right, they're separated, they're chasing us, we're coming out of the trees, I'm dropping out of the leaves and finding my pick. Baronic able to finish off Cuvo Fred, who had thought he had maybe isolated inbound, and inbound's actually got Vote.
Vote luckily has that Scarab's blessing, so he'll be able to make his way out thanks to the help of Neil. Stewart won't be so favorable.
No
Somersault Cloud is good, but the lifesteal against the decoy keeps Stewart a little healthier than he was before. Inbound has to run away as he's being chased out by Dardes and Neil. The only Fury that was started up by the Warriors immediately, they have to give up on it because of the rotation from the Scarabs.
They essentially have to. The siege has shown to be very strong from the Scarabs.
Cuvo went back to base. Neil gets caught.
Huge ults!
Argus drops in the middle of 3. SOT is the one holding it at bay. Baronic used his ultimate to try and get inbound back, but he's stuck in a trap and body blocked away from the portal. He can't get back the safe way. Instead, he'll have to walk all the way back to his team. Has the belly flop to get back away, but Dardes with a huge Argus in the midst of the fight.
Mobile does have the health shield, does have a fair bit of CDR, does have Scarab's blessing to keep him alive, but you get through all that, it's just a mortal, essentially. Hera has to walk away, and against this dive from the Scarabs, best of luck.
Fire Giant at half health. Neilmaw at the front line with Nika. Cuvo looking for a flank. Fire Giant is getting low. Oni Warriors stealing it away with a contra. That's another objective taken, but Scream and Inbound aren't going to let that one just go for free. Vote's in danger.
Nice
Scarab's
revive.
blessing gets him out of danger, but Baronic's got more than enough damage with the Unstable Vortex. Take him down. Nika trades it out and takes Stewart's life in the process, and maybe able to get more as Inbound low in the back line. SOT kept away by 3 as Nika picks up the double kill. SOT just trying to zone the carries away from the rest of the team.
Yeah, these guys are not confirming their objectives. Oni Warriors able to strip this one away, and SOT, that's a late Stygian Torment inside the engagement now. Isolated, you said it. He's just buying time. He's trying to slow down this push from the Warriors.
He's buying a ton of time. Neil does get the pluck, gets the beads immediately out of SOT, and he may be looking for a re-engage. Baronic and Scream have made their way back towards the fight. They only lost Vote, so it could be a 3v4-4. Baronic will get a ton of damage against Neil Maw, gets a root against 3, but he body blocked himself from his own escape path. Scream picks him up and makes it now a 3v3. They get the Fire Giant, but the Warriors did lose 2 in the process.
And they lost maybe some of their most important pieces. Vote's not going to have Fire Giant for the push, so your siege is going to take a lot longer. Neilma, who is generally going to be your dedicated tank for these permanent objectives, these tier 2 towers and Phoenixes, is going to be lacking that self-sustain from the Fire Giant HP 5. So now it's up to Cuvo or Nika to be that frontliner more so. The Solar Scarabs playing the map incredibly well right now. They're keeping the Oni Warriors guessing. The Oni Warriors decided, we're going to group up on right near the Fire Giant, try and push down to tier 2. Solar Scarabs show 4 members on left and force a rotation.
Oh, Baronic wanted to go through the portal, but one of his tanks took it away from him. Now he has to use his own ultimate as it escapes because Argus dropped in the midst of everybody. Baronic does manage to make it out, but I'm imagining he's a little salty just because one of those front lines took the portal away from him. Enhanced Fire Giant, as we dip past that 30-minute mark earlier on. This is the most important objective on the map, barring the Titan, I would say. Obviously, the sole objective you need to in order to win for it, but Enhanced Fire Giant will do a ton for either of these teams. Inbound is making sure that his team has positional advantage against it. And Neil Maul falls through the portal and loses about 3/4 of his health bar because of it. Inbound takes a little bit of damage from Dardes, and they got the Somersault Cloud out of Nika. That's a big defensive ultimate taken away from the Warriors.
Yeah, Nika gonna have to be very intelligent on his dive now. Won't be able to just willy-nilly walk in and then use that Somersault Cloud to re-sustain up instead. He's gonna have to just be on the ground, doesn't have that secondary health bar.
Fire Giant down
Bobby.
to half instantly. Bobby and SOT jump in the back line. Vote's taken down almost in the process, but Neil makes sure to hold him for a little while longer. Portal from SOT tries to cut off the path, but he guesses wrong where Vote was going to go. Instead, Vote gets back to safety. It's a trade 1-for-1. Dardas for inbound. Fire Giant was leashed. Now Nika is at full health in the back line while SOT is looking a little worse for wear.
SOT locked down now. Duck picks him up, but can resustain off the wave, and that's a lot of sustain.
Got a huge heal back from those little ghosts, but the rest of his team have just let him go. They're recognizing there may not be anything to save his life, or it may just be allowing him to buy time for the rest of the team to reposition themselves. Both frontliners down from the Scarabs.
Yo, that trap wall, it paid itself off in dividends. I mean, Bobby trades out his life for Dardas by flopping onto him, but Dardas was standing on triple traps, just gets locked in, does inbound, and just eats every single auto attack from Vote. Neilma able to lock him down as well and trades out his life. That's a trade that you're willing to take if you're the Solar Scares, but maybe not SOT as well. Dardas respawning in 1 second, SOT respawning in 40 desynced timers, favoring the Oni Warriors, and they're establishing the defensive positioning on the Fire Giant itself yet again. Look at the wards on the map as well. The Oni Warriors have complete vision advantage.
They'll start up the Fire Giant immediately. Scream at half health, gets the leap from Cubo Fred over the wall. Baronic throws a little bit of damage out, but it won't find anybody. Fire Giant down to half health. It's just Vote and Neil in the pit for it, and Vote is more than happy to deal the damage. Argus drops on Scream's head, and he's got to use the Lord of the Afterlife to get away. The Fire Giant is leashed, and their target is now Stewart, as Nika is bullying him in the backline. Inbound caught in the midst of everybody and falls down. Cubo Fred grabs Stewart as well, and right back to the Fire Giant the Warriors go.
Looks like Vote's finally starting to deal some damage to inbound. That Silver Branch pickup paying for itself in damage. Inbound dead for 50 seconds. Stewart, the exact same, and this is the first Fire Giant this game that is acquired by the team that starts it. Everyone's got a second life, and some of them might have even more if Scare's Blessing lands on them.
The big difference between the last Fire Giant they had and this one is the fact that Vote's still alive and has it. Cubo doesn't have an ultimate anymore. He has to use it to try and run away from Stewart and Solar or Troll. Tier 2 tower takes a lot of damage from Vote, but because of how unhealthy Cubo is in the process of an inbound, looking for a cutoff path, potentially blinks past damage from Dardas, looking for Cubo, gets the leap instantly in the beach, but Scream finds the Lord of the Afterlife and is just W-king a Cubo Fred, but Argus will make short work of that and instantly push him away. Neil, who had to use the Scare's Blessing himself, is now in danger. The snipes from Stewart are good. Third one will connect and take him down. Neil falls once more.
SOT finds himself in a bit of a precarious situation, and Nika isolates Stewart, but
Nika,
oh my god, dies fast.
Lost almost half his health in an instant, uses the Somersault Cloud to get back to safety, but again, they're now down one frontliner, and with only a minute or so left on Fire Giant around the Fire Giant pits, a couple of blue wards thrown in there from the Warriors as well. Cubo Fred gets spotted by Scream, forced to leap away quickly, but all 5 players from both teams, we got all 10 here to the right side because this next Fire Giant could be the end. We're pushing the near 70-second respawn times at this stage of the game. They may not even need all 5 players dead. If they can just get 1 or 2, maybe get a third one, the Fire Giant may not even be necessary because they can start breaking towards the base.
Fire Giant started up 50% inbound, dropped down to 50%. Nice abduct from Neil Ma.
Portal faded before he could even walk back, so now inbound down to half health. Fire Giant was started there, but immediately dropped in response. Will be picked back up. Vote and Neil, again, the only 2 throwing any damage towards it, and that's really all they need. Vote's got quite a bit of crit built, so he's able to get some nice damage against the Fire Giant. The ring drops, but it's only Neil inside the pit. Scream will slow him down and force him to walk through the ring. In the back goes Nika looking for Stewart. They'll get some good damage. Stewart has to run because he's way too low in health, but they lost the Argus in the process of it. Dardas drops that ult in the middle.
Losing Stewart inside this fight is a lot of your steal potential lost. No more snipes to threaten inbound. He is working his way forward, finds Argus for his trouble.
SOT goes through the portal just to get away from Nika and Cubo, but nobody walked forward for the Fire Giant. That goes the way of the Oni Warriors, and now they're looking for the push forward. They have all 5 nice and healthy to try and siege this base, and it's now the Scarabs for one of the first times this game on full defense.
Yeah, I mean, we could have said it. Last time we saw the Fire Giant go the way of the Oni Warriors with Cubo Fred. Gets picked out very early on, dropped down to 10%. This time is grouped up with his entire team, so it is going to be a tried and true 5-on-5 engagement. So Scarabs are going to have to utilize all their defensive utilities. I'm talking about SOT.
No, Neil.
This.
Neil has to use the Scarabs Blessing on himself. He gets caught by Scream, Stewart, and Baronic. Falls through the portal, and that's the end of the support. One more down for the Warriors. 70 seconds on the respawn, and that's the call for the rest of the Scarabs to go through. Cubo has to use his ultimate very quickly and very early in the fight. Vote loses on the ultimate instantly. Now he has to throw it against inbound. Stewart looking for some snipes, but will be able to find Baronic. Does manage to thread the needle and find that last basic.
Meanwhile, Dart as a mid is dealing with Scream, and he doesn't win that fight. Scream takes him down.
SOT with a two-man hold. Nika able to get to the cloud himself, looking to take down Scream. Will manage to get it with the damage afterward, but it's a 3 versus 2. Make it only a 3 versus 1. It's just Cubo Fred left for the Warriors, but it's only the front line left for the Scarabs.
If Cubo doesn't take out Stewart there, the Scarabs might have been in a position where they could have looked to end this match. Instead, it's just tanks alive for both teams. The Oni Warriors cannot see Fire Giant not have 80 wards on it, huh? This is a new look. 33 wards placed by Inbound so far in this game. That is a metric ton separating these team fights. And now it's the Solar Scarabs yet again finding themselves at the Fire Giant pit first inside of this engagement and dropping the defensive wards as well. Offensive wards deep on the Oni Warriors side of the jungle. So they can create opportunities to try and isolate whoever they want. Nika trying to rope his way all the way around. Spotted out immediately.
Inbound as well, trying to make a rotation around. They'll find Nika, get the ultimate out of him instantly as he gets caught inside his own Scorpion pit. Now Nika crashing down from the cloud, takes half his health from Baronic on landing. Inbound does manage to find him with the stun, but not much further fall but him. Instead, they're looking for Neil, knocked up with the belly flop. Argus drops in the middle, and Stewart goes to the sky looking for snipes or just looking for safety. He'll be in danger as soon as he lands. Nika crashes through with the boar and will be able to take one down with the help of Cubo Fred. SOT with a big ult afterward. We'll find Nika. Baronic able to trade it. Scream got rooted off to the side. He's a lot damage away from him, so he's gonna have to go back to base, but Inbound is the one in the most danger right now. Use the Intoxicate, gets a nice Pridwin shield and a portal just for good measure.
Good heads up play from Baronic to make sure his support doesn't fall here. Scream going for a little bit of a split push, but Neil Ma showing himself on the map is enough to dissuade that one from continuing. Grayscale there, and training out a Soul Laner for an ADC at this phase of the game, yeah, that's value because that's all the Scarabs' ability to go for the enhanced Fire Giant. They do not have consistent enough damage without Stewart to look at this objective.
There are so many wards peppered around the bottom side of the jungle. Neil grabs SOT. SOT has taken so much damage, and Dardas puts him down with the Polymorph. Scream looking for the chase, but the blessing is enough to get Vote out of danger. Now Scream on the run at half. Cubo looking for the damage. The damage from Rend is good. Gets a nice disarm at the tail end of it, but Scream doesn't care. He's running, and meanwhile, Inbound gets plucked in by Neil. That's an 80-second respawn.
And here's the thing, the Oni Warriors keep their ADC alive, so Vote can DPS the enhanced Fire Giant this time around, and it's going to fall down very quickly. Stewart, though, does make the respawn with the snipes. Could look for a steal.
He's at the back camp looking for his opportunity. He goes for the snipes, but it's a little too bit early. He realizes he's way early on the trigger for it. Instead, the enhanced Fire Giant will go the way of the Oni Warriors, and the Scarabs, they're down both frontliners.
The Oni Warriors have been in multiple positions where they can start to look for the siege. Maybe I Caster's Curse them one more time. They're grouped up as 5. They're ready to go in, and there's only 3 members here for the Scarabs to defend.
Neil walks forward to tank the Phoenix's damage, and
where'd he go?
Quick damage back at it. 367, a basic coming from Vote. Yeah, there's no chance that Phoenix lives for more than just a few autos from them, and they'll make their quick movement towards the right side of the map. That Phoenix is now in danger as Vote continues to pepper damage against it. More 300-plus autos from him.
Confident positioning on the map, and the Oni Warriors on the opposite side. Maybe we look at a base race?
They're not deterred one bit. Look, the Scarabs are hoping that somebody walks through the jungle, but they see 2 pop on the map in the mid. They see 2 or 3 now popping on the left side of the map. The Solar Scarabs may just be going for a base race. They've got the damage to be able to take this one down. 100-plus damage and auto going through. 5 take down the Phoenix. Is this going to be the opportunity for it? But now everybody from the Warriors have back. Cubo Fred dives into the backline. Argus drops down. That's 1 kill for Dardas, 1 kill for Neil, and 1 for Vote. 3 down instantly, and Baronic low. Use the ultimate just as an escape option for it. SOT does not have the same luxury of those portals. Cubo Fred will continue the chase, and the Solar Scarabs, they go on a Hail Mary attempt at that base race, but it's not going to come up favorable for them.
Look, they got it down to about 30%, man. Admirable effort there from the Solar Scarabs, and I think the writing's on the wall, man. Oni Warriors, I think they got it. What's Baronic going to do with the ultimate? Maybe go for the end? What? No shot. Yeah, Nika's got you.
Nika is playing gatekeeper against that Titan. Henry recognizes Baronic, walked up and said, hey, what's going on, dude? Did you want something? Maybe this Titan? Nah, not happening. Instead, the Oni Warriors in a big fight on the defense. They're able to turn it around and take game one by rushing it right up the mid lane and taking down the Titan. Took him almost 53 minutes to help.
Right?
I don't know.
Right. Ultimately, I don't think it would.
No, it would not have killed that Titan.
Yeah. Look, we're defending Phoenixes here. 22 minutes into the game, we would go about another 40 before this one came to a close. And so these highlights, I think, are indicative of more of how the team fighting went rather than how any sort of lead got built, because the lead ended up sort of being meaningless there by the end of it. But these two teams, Gore, we figured and we rated would be pretty closely matched up based on how their recent performances went. And that was definitely the case. I do think Dardes and Vote, both of the carries for the Oni Warriors, deserve some love here in this one, because the Hera is always a fun pick to watch on Dardes, and we're going to get a look at the base attempt here. But think about Vote, the Caledonian Boar, and 5 grouped up members of the Solar Scarabs. I think you're licking your chops thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to walk forward as an Artemis there and have your entire kit ready and available to you, that is maybe one of your best case scenarios. I have to give them credit too. Mifflin said it best. The Scarabs have not been making it easy for any team to beat them the last few times, and this was maybe the most largest example of that one. Definitely the longest example of that one.
I mean, because now it is, it's pivot time here for the Solar Scarabs, unless you don't mind what you got there in game one. And I don't know if the Solar Scarabs do mind what they got there in game one. It's a well-crafted composition, and some things just don't come up your way. But I do think you're giving over a lot in the carry conversation to the Oni Warriors if they get Artemis and Hera again. Kind of feels weird banning a Hera, but it's Dardes, so you might have to.
That's the awkward conversation. They banned Serket, Odin, Yamoja. You don't really want Yamoja to go through. You don't really want the Hera to go through. Don't really want the Serket to go through. Might be able to first pick Yamoja, but I don't really want that for the Scarabs based on the win rate and track record it's had.
Here's the thought. Once a set, and this is a really, really bad thought. I'm going to precursor this already. Okay. Once a set.
What a awful... Oh, wait, sorry, you're not done yet.
Twice a set. Okay, Gore, good thinking. We don't want it once a set. We want it twice a set. A team can forfeit their first pick. So, if the Solar Scarabs were in this first pick slot, it would immediately
go to choose because they just lost.
It would immediately go to the Oni Warriors for picks 1 and 2. But the Solar Scarabs get to take all 5 bans right away. They say, all right, we'll let the Oni Warriors pick first, picks 1 and 2, but we get to ban all 5 of our gods right off the bat.
That'd be interesting. But
look, it's a horrible idea. I'm just thinking that was totally.
I imagine I'm gonna use the supports as an example. You ban Yamoja, Ymir, Khepri. Who else has been big so far?
We're talking about in this set?
Just in general. You ban those 3. You ban the Odin, and let's say you ban Artemis, right? So there's five really good ones, and then they lock in Tiamat. And it's just so it's one of those things where,
I'm not the coach. I'm not the one telling them how to pick and ban with this new mechanic.
Maybe I gave a bad example. I should have given 3 more gods because that would have been all 8 of the first bans.
We are officially 90 degrees from reality here, or 180 degrees from reality. I more meant
there's back to reality. There goes gravity.
Right. In my mind, I'm just thinking there's so much you want to ban against the Warriors after that game. The only way to do it would be as if you had all 5 bans right away, and now we've come full circle. They don't have all 5 bans right away, so the Solar Scarabs take away Serket, Yamoja, Khepri, Artemis, Tiamat, Fenrir on the other side, and that's going to leave the Odin open to be picked up here. Some flexibility in that pick, I would say, between solo and support, maybe mainly.
Especially with inbound.
With inbound, but I think leaning towards solo in my mind.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually the pivot I was going to make. You had said the Scarabs might want to run back everything they just picked. And I'm like, man, that Osiris was really good. The Giannis was really good. The Ram and the Bacchus fit pretty well, although there were definitely some moments where Stewart was unable to just live, which maybe was out of their control in general. But I think if you change that Cerberus to something that maybe can get a little bit more done, that maybe it's a little more driving factor, specifically from Sot, who has had a really, really good year. And so I like this pickup because I think it is a good pivot for them. I'm also excited to see this because Gilgamesh was one of the last bans last time around. It was very, very weird to see him go through so much of the picked and bans portion and not get looked at. So I really like that the Scarabs are pivoting into it.
It's because neither team were able to take all 5 of their bans right off the bat, Gore. Just saying.
Just saying.
Of course, I'm completely kidding.
At Cooper.
At Cooper, yeah. Make some changes here, man. Odin, Gilgamesh, and Terra. That is a strong front 3 from the Solar Scarabs. They've got their front line, their jungle. They've got that all sorted out. So we're still waiting on Hunter and mid for the Solar Scarabs, which is actually not bad because you have the ability to counterpick a little bit what the Oni Warriors are going to draft for themselves. And it's kind of the opposite story for the Oni Warriors, where they've already got Rom, they've already got Morrigan, so they've already got Hunter in mid, and then Nike, seeing it in the jungle, very unique play style, Nike out of the jungle. But the teams literally go kind of in opposite spots as far as what they still need here in picks and bans, and so the counterplay in these last few is going to be interesting to watch.
And I think for the Scarabs, it's going to be interesting, not just the Ymir, but like with Khepri already gone, you've removed the Umoja as well, so you're really starting to limit the support pool specifically up against Neil. The downside is that Neil has been playing for a while, and actually last year was very similar to what we've seen out of Bobby the last few weeks, playing a lot of these eclectic picks as well. So I'm not too worried about what he's going to be able to pick here. I think it is, and also honestly, when you go and look at your solo lane as well, depending on this Nike, more than likely jungle. We've seen it jungle most as of late.
Could also be solo.
But could pivot, and you could just go, okay, cool, we're just going to grab an assassin for Kivo. Let's have fun.
Yeah, so Neil is not going to play Umoja. Neil is not going to play Khepri. Neil is not going to play Ymir or Ares or Terra. Instead, he's going to play Ardio. So Neil is on his 6th pick here. We don't really know where Ardio is on his personal tier list, but as far as supports being taken away, you could maybe even throw Fenrir in that. So 6, asterisk 7 pick here for Neilma on the Ardio. What do we think about the Ardio, Gore? Because we've seen it a couple of times. Not a frequent pick here at the SPL level, but definitely not one that's looked horrible in the games that we've seen it.
It was absolutely bullying yesterday. The Warriors, when they played it, were just going constantly onto Heroind and mid for their first game, and that's actually what I want to see. Like, normally I'd say Ardio, she's got good CC, she's got good some sustain in that kit, she's decent, right? But not necessarily a top tier support, not really a bottom tier support. But I think the way Neil played her yesterday up against the Dragons was a very, very good showcase of how she can showcase like a top support. And that's what I would be most worried about if I am Baronic here, is just getting constantly jumped on and just broken down by this Ardio.
Well, if Baronic is going to be getting jumped on, at least he has a cleanse, right? Because Baronic has picked up the Hell. Hell has been at the forefront of a lot of conversations.
Just for that extra heal, bang for your buck on the heal, I should say.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it down there. It gives you additional defense. You're going to get some power as well. And we've seen with that recent new discovery with Terra, you can kind of one-shot buffs if you dash through your second ability. So maybe having a little bit more power is going to be a big boon for inbound going forward. I think you're right to say that this game has the potential to go late. It feels like both the Oni Warriors and the Solar Scarabs have decided that they just kind of drafted around the late game. They're like, all right, we're going to play a 40-minute match. Might as well keep that one rolling. So Hell, taking time, is going to be the hero that we deserve in the Smite game chat. That's going to get the ball rolling. Already, though, duo lane pressure is going the way of the Oni Warriors. That is aggressive positioning. Neilma sitting on the very edge of that tower, trying to put out as much damage as possible. But when you're this far up, opens up the door for junglers to rotate over, and Scream's rearing his head.
Yeah, Scream has already made his way towards this side of the map, has the blink available. Who will the target for him be? Looks like it is going to be both blink immediately, and kicked against the wall. Scream picks up first blood, and they may be able to get more if they can lock down Neil. Drop kick one more time. That's against the wall. Jump over just to close the gap, but Scream doesn't have the CC to lock him down. It'll just be a first blood.
Just a first blood and maybe a purple buff invade as well. Vote has respawn, but it's a slow walk over. And Neil, I don't know, man, seems dangerous.
That's going to be the immediate blink from Neil to reposition himself to the other side, closer towards Vote, but Vote doesn't look like he has much interest in even attempting to try and stop this purple. Instead, that will go the way of Scream, and inbound with the walls will make sure to stun Neilma and keep him at bay and allow for Scream to make his retreat.
Yeah, clean play from Scream on that rotation. Oni Warriors trying to get the ball rolling early on. They were establishing pressure to look for a purple buff invade of their own, but Instead, it's Scream making a uncharacteristic early rotation, and it feels like an adaptation that the Solar Scarabs have been working on now, because generally it's Scream kind of hanging out with SOT inside of the solo lane, but this is 2 games in a row where Scream makes his place known in the duo.
Veronic's even made a rotation to the left side, trying to go for a purple buff invade. Neil takes a ton of damage, but purple does still go the way of the Solar Scarabs. Sentry wards to make sure they have the ward advantage around the mid lane to keep Veronic as safe as possible. As we've talked about, not the most mobile and not the safest of the mages. Does have a form of cleanse from the healing stance, but that's really the only inherent safety that this hell does have. The slow, not all that great. That comes from the decay. Outside of that, it's just going to be positional awareness for Veronic that will really keep him at bay, and maybe if he can land a couple heals as well.
Yeah, it does have the speed boost from the heal stance as well. Cubo Fred maybe wishing he had a heal coming his way.
Winds drop down, immediately leaping over the wall is both SOT and Scream. They really want to take down Cubo Fred, and they will do so. Kill credit goes the way of Veronic as he got that final hit.
Yeah, maybe Veronic heard me say it, says, all right, I'll heal him. Hits him with a light stance 1 and finds the kill. Inbound on the other side, tries to find himself a purple buff invade, but maybe bites off more than he could chew. Forced to use the beads, and Neil still on the chase.
Slowed down, stunned as well, but Vote doesn't have the follow-up.
Oh, there it is.
Rolls in immediately, walls come through. Vote, if he wants this kill, he's gonna have to go for the ult, but he's not going to elect to do so. Inbound used his own ultimate in response to try and deter them from walking too far forward. Power spike yet available to him to really help out and potentially get that kill. So, looking across the board here for just 7 minutes in, we've already got almost as many kills as we had 20 minutes into the last game, but this time the Oni Warriors are repeating what we saw in game number 1, which was red buff invade, purple buff invade. Well, they'll start with the red at least for now. Neil will not pick that one up. He has the green buff. He gets caught inside the winds, rooted in place, drop kicked against the wall, and Inbound gets the credit for the kill, but Dardes has made his rotation with an ultimate of his own, dropping a cage down for his team to allow Cubo Fred to pick up a kill.
And Inbound, left high and dry, is able to work his way back in a lane. Nice transformation from Dardes. Probably won the team fight, and I tend to agree. Terra's ultimate, so valuable, especially up against gods like Nika's Cerberus. I mean, the Ghastly Breath being a dot ability, essentially, a ticking over time, means that you're just going to proc that heal every time you use it.
Well, it looks like we hit the rewind here because it's another red buff and another ultimate from Screams. Neil will be able to make it out of the winds this time around. Stewart dives in with his own ultimate, roots Neil in place. He's stuck and takes a little longer to drop him down this time, but ultimately Veronic does get in. Yeah, I think he said it first. Just a case of deja vu.
But this time, Gold Fury is available on the Solar Scarabs. Want to keep it going for themselves.
SOT?
Yeah, they're picking this one up, and SOT found Cubo, but it's just zone here.
Yeah, it's just to keep him locked down while the rest of the team does the Gold Fury. Vote managed to get one hit and put Scream at critical health, and that lets the Gold Fury take him down, but not before they at least drop it. Now Veronic on the run because Nika's rotated so much damage from the Guardian. Nika picks up a double kill with the Ghastly Breath, and it's just SOT left on this side, he's trying to defend against them. Inbound is here, but there's not much he can offer aside from a 3-man wall. Major stun out of Inbound. Saves the life of his solo laner for the time being, but Dardes, with that Dark Omen, is able to help with Cubo Fred to take him down.
Oni Warriors turn it all the way around there. Solar Scarabs defend their red buff, find a kill, get the Gold Fury, and then
Inbound
lose out on 4 lives. Bobby now sticking around a little bit too long, and, well, Dardes is SOT.
Inbound gets caught, immediately caged in place as well because, well, Dardes has the ability to make his own cage, and Inbound still living for just a little while longer, but Dardes will take him down. Meanwhile, Vote takes the tower just a little too long and ends up falling to it.
Hey, shouts to Vote for being a team player. Doesn't want to reset the tower to his homie Dardes. Okay, I mean, dying to the tower is not a big deal. Nobody really even gets the assist credit for that, I don't think. Inbound dies before Vote does, so maybe not in range to get credit for that one. Dardes, not trying to make the same mistake, is leaving as quickly as he can, but Scream on the chase.
Scream looking for more, will not find Dardes. He just snapped his ankle with that stealth and hides behind the tier 1 tower. Scream comes up empty-handed.
At least the first ability in the base stance as well. It's going to be very hard for Scream to maintain that passive, and Oni Warriors, well, they're looking to keep that pressure up. Pyromancer is pulled out here, but Scream and Inbound turning the corner is enough to make them think twice about it.
Cubo wanted to take that bubble away from him with the Ren, but the third hit gets stunned by Inbound. Dardes on the hunt does manage to find one, but Dardes will immediately have to transform into the Odin. Doesn't have that cage just yet dropped down. He's looking for the perfect opportunity. Will leap at the back and find Veronic all by himself, but Neil is in danger. He is down to a quarter health. Veronic taking a ton of damage, has to use the Aegis, heals back up just a little bit. Meanwhile, SOT picks up Neil on the rotation. Scream is the one in danger as Nika finds him in the back line, and Cubo Fred comes all the way back into the midst of everybody just to fall back down.
That's a 2-for-1 trade favoring the Solar Scarabs, and having Screen be the one that you lose already at a pretty large deficit is going to keep him further behind, but trading out Cubo Fred means he won't fall too much further behind. That's a nice rotation from SOT to turn that engagement around. Maybe the first mistake the Oni Warriors have made is fighting where SOT can get involved.
Inbound will throw the heal out and tank up the tower, so that way Stewart can very healthily take this tier 1 tower with a little bit of assistance. So that's 500 gold swinging the way of the Solar Scarabs. And despite the massive fight that the Warriors had at the left side of the map earlier on, they didn't get anything else from it. They got
vision on the gold free, so they'll know when the Oni Warriors start it. But it's whether or not they can actually defend. With Scream on the right-hand side, I'm not loving their odds.
Yeah, Scream looks like he may just be occupied with the tier 1 tower instead. SOT gets found, but not much more beyond there. He's going to throw a little bit of damage with the spear, gets stunned by Dardas, so that cooldown is now away from him, and Nika will just continue the zone, half health on SOT. So there's no way for him to safely get into the middle of all this. Primal Fury looks like it will go the way of the Oni Warriors, and they may be looking for even more as SOT gets caught, has to use the beads to get away from Nika's ultimate and drops his cage just as an extra defense.
But it is Stewart up in the air. Where is he going to go? Looks like he's chasing out that right-hand side. Oh, that's a transformation from Dardas.
Just to help out a little bit, but instead, 0 so far. And that Onk, yeah, that's value. I mean, it's already upgraded. When you get healed, you're taking bonus damage inside of the Scarabs.
Well, according to the healing chart, not quite the 300 burst heal for the team just yet, only sitting at 58 for O'Neal. He's gotten one nice, I think he's gotten like one healing cone off, and that was very, very early on in the game when they were pushing up to tier 1 tower. But aside from that, the Warriors have the position for the Oni Fury, already down to around half health. SOT will stun Neil and use his leap to get away as Nika will chase him out, as well as Neil walking forward. Scream missing the drop kick, and Cuvo will just try and play zone with this Nike, but so far, the Warriors not stepping too far out of line.
Dardas acting as front line, finds SOT.
SOT gets stunned, and immediately Dardas has to go for a transformation.
Nice
drops
cage.
the cage, and the drop kick puts him right against the wall again. Neil and SOT both
Nice
in
cage
danger as
for
SOT is dropped down to half health, but everybody else is trying to bully out Baronic, who's caught in the middle of both of the frontliners. Cubo Fred shoves him back into the middle of the fight. SOT has to use his shield just for some extra life, but Inbound doesn't have the same luxury. He will fall, and SOT shortly after, unless he can find an escape path, Cubo Fred will try and lock him down, and Nika will make sure to put him in the dirt.
Meanwhile, what's Stewart up to on the opposite side? Strips away a tier 2 tower and maybe looking to take the Phoenix as well, but Neilma here on the defense. I don't think he gets this one. Stewart, you gotta be in these team fights, bud. We've seen what happens when you're not, and the Solar Scarabs cannot be happy with it. Baronic inbound and SOT dead. This is going to be a quick Phoenix.
He might get punished because of this. He makes that huge rotation to right to try and take Phoenix. Meanwhile, the Oni Warriors now with a minion wave could take a responding Phoenix, and probably a more important one. Sure, right Phoenix is great to take, but when you could take the one on the opposite side of the Fire Giant for the map, huge pickup here for the Oni Warriors. Not to defend, but the Oni Warriors are the ones who are pressing forward. They're getting vision control. You see a sentry ward right on the Fire Giant. You see one at the mid camp as well for any possible sneaky dives that could come from Scream or from SOT.
Stewart keeping up that role as split pusher, is able to strip away the tier 1 tower on the left-hand side, and maybe a tier 2 as well, but inbound. Where'd you go, bud?
No, inbound does not exist anymore as Dardas hits a nice combo to take him down with the help of his carry. Both looking for big snipes. Will find all 3 hits against Scream. Dardas transforms into the Terra to use the Earthen Fury for some extra defensive, but Stewart, he's just chilling. He's got a backpack picked up for this left side. He'll take both towers and keep pushing, but the rest of his team is just dying on the right side of the map.
Man, I don't know what's going on in Stewart's head right now. He's got to be thinking just singing happy songs while the rest of his team is literally fighting for their lives, trying to keep this Fire Giant alive. Stewart's just like, yeah, dude, I got a tier 1.
He's singing Kumbaya over here.
Got a tier 2, it's whatever.
Yeah, Scream will get a push against Nika, but Fire Giant's already down to half health. Nika picks up Baronic, who has to use the beads immediately. Dardas on the hunt looking for him, but Baronic will be able to make it out, but not before the Fire Giant falls. Scream finds the gap across the wall to be able to leap away, and Stewart, well, he finally left that side of the map.
Are able to take a team fight cleanly. 2 Phoenix exposed thanks to the efforts of Stewart, but they've got to put up a defense. They got to win a team fight, and I think for them to do so, Stewart's going to have to be here, and he is with his team this time around. But that left side Phoenix, they've already been pushed out, have the Solar Scares. This one's going down very fast. Where'd it go?
Oh, as soon as it spawned, it is already gone. And SOT, as soon as he leaps in, he loses almost his entire health bar down to just a sliver as he uses the cage. Sky is Vote looking for Snipes, gets the second, the shield. We'll make sure the third will not be enough to take him down. Instead, the rest of the team for the Warriors pushing against the mid lane Phoenix. Scream drops the ultimate against two of them and forces them back just a little bit. Dardes has to walk away, but Vote manages to pick up inbound in the fray. But Neil gets low. The Phoenix not going to be enough damage to take him down. And Cubo Fred harassing the backline. Moronic is too low, and Moronic will not be able to make it out as Dardes picks him up. Scream forced back to the fountain, and with huge fire waves pushing from the left side, the Oni Warriors, much quicker this time, will be able to take the game away from the Scarabs and take the set, but not before they at least pick up a couple more kills.
Not even playing the game anymore with them. Yeah, they just really started to turn things around. I mean, you can see here, Scarabs are leading 4-1 in the kills, but the gold was not nearly enough in favor of the Scarabs to really start pivoting things over there. Vote, as well as Nika, as well as Dardes, really got the ball rolling for them. I will give Dardes, I think, a lot of credit, because you should see here, I think this fight, there was a Odin cage and then a second Odin cage. Maybe it was a different one, same area, where they just did so much. Nika was able to get a lot of damage done, and I think it's just this ridiculous combination that this team had that just fit together a lot better than what the Scarabs were able to put forward.
Yeah, Dardes in the changeling throughout this game just added such a unique difference to a lot of these team fights depending on what his target was. You mentioned Odin's, things like that. And I think earlier on in this replay package, as we watched Cubo Fred run down the Solar Scarabs here, we saw a moment where Vote was Odin caged in and then just used the ult, hung out for a while, and then dropped back down. That was some counterplay I think we saw a couple of times there in that game where Vote was able to stay safe enough and keep himself in the fight.
It was that last fight. I was trying to think of it because I was like, man, I remember something I wanted to say about Stuart, but I couldn't remember what it was until I saw it, and I remembered he's split pushing that entire time on Chernobog, and normally that's normal, right? That's fine.
Yep.
Didn't have his ult, wasn't there for a lot of those fights. I mean, you can see he did less damage than the Baronic, but just barely more than Inbound was able to get. Granted, they didn't have a lot of time to get a lot of damage out there, but it felt like, again, for the Scarabs, similar to their end call of Game 1, that some of the priorities were maybe a little rushed for them, and that they might have been able to open up a lot more, especially if Stuart had been there for that fight.
Yeah. And they're maybe starting to play some of their best Smite right now. They find themselves tied with the Titans as far as wins go. The Titans do have a matchup tomorrow against the Valkyries, so the Titans will change either to 5-7 as well as the Oni Warriors, or 6-6. And the Oni Warriors will play the Titans next weekend. So it's really that 5th, 6th spot, Gore, where things get interesting. Still a chance to catch the Leviathans as well if the Leviathans drop a couple sets.
And you have to remember, seeding matters at this point, right? Like, I mean, being top 2, again, gets you a nice little bye, but also who you then play if you're 5th, 6th, or 3rd and 4th.